Sir Francis Drake, a famous captain, explorer, reputed pirate, and a hero of many. The oldest of 12 children, he was born to a Protestant preacher and was raised a devoted Catholic. As a boy, he dreamed that one day he might travel the world and see sights unseen by any other man. Because of religious persecution, Drake's family was forced away from their hometown of Devonshire, away to the waterfront of Kent. He flourished in Kent, quickly rising to the top of a small shipping company. Drake made good money in a simple life, but yearned for more. Searching for adventure, he began partnering with his successful second cousin, John Hawkins. Drake journeyed to the New World for the first time with his ally Hawkins, leading a flotilla of ships to harass the Spanish trade throughout the Caribbean. It was very successful, and they returned to England up many ranks in the social ladder, the first step in Drake's great journey. When they returned 3 years later, Drake and Hawkins were trapped in a small bay by a Spanish fleet. The two violently fought their way out of the fray, captaining the only two ships that escaped. Drake was consumed by rage, having just seen most of his crew brutally murdered in the battle. Drake famously vowed revenge against the Spanish, thinking of them as supreme villains. As he traveled the region on a return trip, he walked across the country to the west coast, only to find the beautiful amethyst-colored Pacific Ocean dominating the landscape. He was called to action by the view. He vowed he would one day sail an English ship through the Pacific and find what lay beyond that empty horizon. None other than Queen Elizabeth I noticed Drake's return. She was immensely impressed by his success in Panama, so much so that she granted Drake's requests to explore the Pacific Sea. She tasked him to journey through the tip of Argentina by way of the Straits of Magellan and find whatever was on the other side. This was the end of one journey and the beginning of another for Drake. He had now personally talked with the Queen, achieving premier social status, but now at a harder, more physically real journey across the world's oceans. He left from Plymouth with 5 ships, sailing down the coast of Africa for a time before turning into the ocean. He stayed through the winter in a lonely Argentina bay, setting out just as a storm passed through the area. The other ships in the expedition were driven away by the storm, leaving only the Golden Hind. Drake had few allies with him now, but he persevered and returned to sailing, not willing to turn back to England as a failure. As the Golden Hind continued north, Drake captured many Spanish ships and small towns packed full of wealth and rare artifacts. This was never his true goal, but Drake had a powerful fatal flaw: greed. It sometimes overpowered his personality, making him hated as a pirate in regions of Europe. After a short stop near the San Francisco Bay, he turned into the Pacific, eager to finally see what lay beyond the horizon. The rest of his journey passed with little incident, and he reached Indonesia after a good crossing. When he returned to England, his goal accomplished, he was bedraggled, partially starved, and extremely proud. The Queen dined with him on the ship, eventually deciding to knight him right there, to the extreme vexation of the jealous Spanish. He continued to sail, focusing on military matters. When Spain was planning to declare war on England, Drake carved a path of destruction through Spanish trade for almost a year. He burned and captured many ships, with the help of his sidekick, John Hawkins. In the eventual 1588 battle between the Spanish Armada and the English forces, Drake was appointed vice admiral to the English force. In a stroke of heroic genius, he drove flaming ships into the ranks of the close-packed Spanish Armada, causing devastation. Despite the villainous Spanish government hunting him down, and the immense divide in the British social classes making it almost impossible for one to rise in rank, he persevered and overcame these obstacles. Even though he struggled with his more human flaws, making him hated across many parts of Europe, with the help of others, he persevered. In early 1596, he caught dysentery after a blistering series of defeats in the Spanish Main, and died of fever soon after. In a stuffy cabin, surrounded by a respectful crew, he sank into blissful sleep and never awoke. Thus ended the life of Sir Francis Drake, my personal hero.